What's going on, people? Warm down for Chelsea. Going to keep this one, I think, fairly short and sweet. I mean, a 1-1 draw, almost to be expected. I think this was the most even and most drawn Premier League fixture of all time. Not only the most draws, but also equal number of wins between each team. It really had draw written all over it, to be honest. And I think us getting that was almost to be expected. Both teams also played like they were up for a draw. I don't think Chelsea really went all out, and I think we played a lot of long balls, were a bit more safe and conservative, which I did call for after Leicester, but the complete lack of goal threat throughout the 90 minutes I think was quite sort of telling. I mean, we created a small number of chances, so did they, and eventually got a breakthrough through a penalty. And I'm still wondering how Rasmus Højlund didn't actually take that down and score. I mean, if he goes on his right foot, I think he's definitely going to put that away. And then good for his confidence, good for us. But it was a penalty. We scored. Lead lasted 3-4 minutes, and we're back to a sort of stalemate. And yeah, both teams seemed almost happy to accept that. Within the game, big shout out to Nusayr Mazraoui. Absolutely flawless performance. I think if you're looking at someone who's technically sound, who does his job well, and honestly did much more in an attacking sense as well than he has done in past games. I mean, that was him all over. It was absolutely outstanding. I think he was the best player on the pitch. I heard some people saying Caicedo, but I think we actually went through that midfield at times in a way that I just don't think their wingers had the beating of Mazraoui at all. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. Outside of that, really not much to comment on. I couldn't really think of any specific points or anything. It was all kind of a nothing game that was mildly entertaining, but really lacking in quality. And I think maybe for Chelsea, they thought, they've got a caretaker manager, we don't know what to expect, let's make sure we don't lose. And United went in there and thought, we won on the weekend, we've lost a few big games at Old Trafford, let's make sure we don't lose, and sort of predictably went that way. Outside of that, any particulars that I would pick out, we saw this Casemiro Ugarte midfield again, which I think is bringing the best out of Casemiro, because he now has some more insurance next to him. He's got a bit more support and isn't sort of tasked with doing so much defending, and it does make us a bit more solid through the middle and sort of pushes the opposition build up out of the centre of the pitch, which is always a good thing fundamentally. That said, that midfield does not really give much on the ball, and as much as Ugarte is great at winning the ball back and closing things down, the issue that I do have with him is on the ball he's taken too many touches and doesn't really have the short passing down. He had one lovely switch out to Marcus Rashford, which was great, but in sort of smaller, tighter spaces, he's not so good. And the thing is, when you want him pressing in those spaces, if someone else wins the ball, that's where he's going to find himself. He doesn't seem to have the sort of footwork or passing ability to excel there. Maybe that's getting used to the speed, but that's something to look out for. He made a lot of tackles, won a lot of balls back that helped us sort of go on the transition, but he also gives away so many fouls. I mean, he's constantly just jumping in, diving in. It's quite frustrating to watch, to be honest. I do feel like he's given away so many fouls that it's detrimental to the overall game, and that might be okay playing for Sporting where you're going to dominate the opponent, but it wasn't good enough for PSG, and it won't be good enough here either if he's constantly easing the pressure off or conceding fouls where we now have to go back and defend. Also, his propensity for a yellow card I think was actually quite crucial with their goal, because if he didn't have a yellow card already, he could have fouled Pedro Neto way further out and we could have avoided a corner. That is the third goal in 2 games we've conceded from a set piece. Again, we get a set piece coach, what does he do? I can't really see anything happening there yet, and that goes for attacking wise as well. And there's another thing, Joshua Zirkzee coming on. I still don't understand it. He's so slow. It just doesn't really seem to make an impact at all. Again, I'm not sure he's a viable backup the way that he's playing at the moment. Garnacho, another note there, a bit frustrating really. There was one instance at the end where Mazraoui really makes a big burst, and this is a man who's had a heart procedure a few weeks ago, makes a huge burst in the last 5 minutes of the game to create a great overlap, and Garnacho doesn't give him the ball. And that's one thing I absolutely cannot stand, is when wingers ignore the fullbacks overlap when they're already running into the box. I understand you might ignore the overlap out on the touchline, but when they're already in the box, he was running almost in line with the 6-yard line. You've got to make that pass. Another one he could have rolled through to Ahmad in injury time. I think there's some really sort of frustrating hallmarks there of a player who gets himself in great positions but isn't quite making the right decisions. But yeah, not really much to say, nothing too noteworthy. Not a bad result, but in the context, not a good result. We've had now a Tottenham, Chelsea and Liverpool at home. We've got 1 point. Yeah, it's not good. So the only thing we can hope is that we have Leicester and Ipswich next. If we can win those two, then we are hopefully going to start picking up some points and gaining some ground on those teams above us. But those big games, Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle, they are coming, and they're coming soon. And we need to hope that we can pick up points there to get closer and not end up falling further back. But yeah, that's really it for that one. We move on now to the Europa League. Need that first win, don't we? Let's hope we get it. Catch you in the next one.